Welcome to Techgig webinar series, our endeavor to empower techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key to enhance our skills and grow us as professionals. With this principle in mind, we have initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give you all a crisp insight on various domains. Today's topic is Application Release Automation Continuous Delivery through DevOps, and we have with us today Mr. Amit Ved, Advisory Engineer, Test Automation, IBM Rational Software. Mr. Ved is presently working as Advisory Software Engineer with IBM Rational Software with over 9 years of research and development experience, working with IBM Rational's products with proven experience in all phases of product development. Development background includes design, development testing, and technical consulting of various software products. In his present role, he is involved with development and evangelizing of functional test automation. So without any further delay, I am going to pass on the presentation to Mr. Ved. Amit, over to you.
Thanks for the introduction.
Amit, also request you to put your mic very close so that we can all hear you clearly, and make sure that your audio setting is correct. Okay, thanks.
Okay. So thanks everyone for taking time for today's session on application release automation through continuous delivery. So let's look at the agenda. In today's presentation, I think there is a little lag, so I'll wait for my presentation to, my slide to come up. Yeah, so looking at the agenda, we would talk about why do we need DevOps. That's one of the buzzwords that's, that's being discussed in the industry very often nowadays, and based on the emerging market needs. DevOps is one of the key things that's gaining momentum. We would also look at what are the challenges for continuous delivery and why do we need continuous delivery. We would look at UrbanCode. This is one of the recent acquisition which IBM has made with IBM's continuous commitment towards growing continuous software development. We realized that DevOps is one of the key strategic areas. We already had some tools to realize DevOps methodology. So UrbanCode is only complementing IBM's commitment towards DevOps. So we would be looking at some of the key components of DevOps, UrbanCode, typically uDeploy and uRelease. So without further ado, I would jump into the presentation. I'm at slide 3. So the first and the basic question is, why do we need DevOps? I mean, so of the various reasons that we would actually come to know as I walk through the presentation, if I have to signal out one particular reason as to why do we need a DevOps, would be automation. I mean, industry realized this when we did application test automation. And now with the growing market needs, there is a clear case need for application deployment automation. This is the data, the data that you see in this slide. Some of the companies have been in wrong reasons in the media for delivering something which was misconfigured, or they were not ready for upgrades, or they already released something which clearly there was a gap between what the development was doing and what was being released. One thing that we need to understand is, gone are the days when applications were single components, and these components were single deployable. So, install of a component would actually go up and install the software for you. So typically now when we talk about software is typically, amalgamation of many components that come together. So if I'm talking about, browsing a bank website on my mobile phone, it would be typically a web application that is in the front end. I would be talking to a web application server in the middle layer, and which would be talking to a mainframe server in the back end. So, when we actually talk about deploying our software or making, getting it out in the market, it's basically all these components come together. So, they have to be orchestrated in a way wherein we typically realize that, which are the systems that have gone under change. Having said that, clearly there is a need for automation in the deployment space, because we know that, anything that is manual is costly and error prone. Even if I have to tie my shoelace 100 times, I'm sure I'll make some mistakes. So even if in a trivial job like that, if I'm supposed to make mistakes, how can actually we ignore the space of deployment automation? So clearly we saw that there is a gap. There is a gap in deploying software. There is a gap because of growing customer needs. So DevOps is definitely a way forward, wherein we are basically trying to bring development and operations organization together, so that they basically see the same blueprint, they see the same dashboard, they see the same executable, and our software is release ready in all phases of software development. So that is a typical brief about DevOps, the urgency of DevOps. And let's look at in another slide what are the key challenges. Where are we going wrong? So typically, if we see in a development organization, most of the organization has started following agile methodology. So while development is becoming fast, I mean we have our scrum, we have our iterations, we have our releases, but the momentum has not been transitioned when we talk about deployment. So if typically I am a developer and if I'm building a software, it's quite common that on a development-like environment I would be working on a Tomcat server, but once that software gets deployed in a production-like environment, it could be a web application server. So there's clearly a mismatch, between the environments that a developer typically works and the environment in which the software typically gets deployed. Also, we all, being in the industry, we always have common situations wherein a software is working well within the environment of the company, but when it gets deployed at real customer location, I mean we see issues. So the bridge is that there is a clear gap between a customer-like environment. And why do we have that gap? I mean, why can't we have that environment in, let's say, development organization? Is because clearly the number of hours that somebody has to spend on creating that environment. I mean, that environment itself is like, for example, you have to run a series of steps to deploy your web application server on some particular component, and then for every change, it becomes a little difficult to basically bring all these components together to recreate the environment. So typically, you would need automated tools to do all those things for you. I mean, there has to be a tool, there has to be a strategy, there has to be a mechanism wherein deployment is just a task of clicking on a button, and whether a developer makes some change on the code, he can actually test that change on a production-like environment. Similarly, once he's satisfied with whatever he has done, he can basically promote that change to a test environment. The testing team can again take those changes with a click of button, recreate the environment, test those changes in a production-like environment, and once they are satisfied, they might pass on that particular build or release to a certification team. And like for and similarly, it reaches the operations team. So clearly, all these teams have the same shared view of what is happening. And at any point in time, we know that, okay, fine, really, version 1 of the software is fine with the development, fine with the certification team, but version 1.1 has some problem which has been the development team. So if we have to release a software, you can always release a software which is actually testable in a production-like environment. So with agile methodology, when we are talking about development is in pace, but because of the lack of automation in the deployment space, the pace has not picked up. Again, time to market. As I said, these days it's all about opportunistic market. I mean, we cannot wait for scheduled releases to happen, let's say in a year or two, probably 6 months to come. So think about two banks' websites, ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank, or any other website. They always are gazing at customer feedback. They have to incorporate that feedback. And the time to market is very opportunistic. I mean, we cannot rely on scheduled releases. So to have that kind of environment, to actually rely on that kind of environment, there is nothing but, you need to have something automated. Your deployment has to be automated. Also, we have seen over the years that, release engineers, while we have too many of developers, testers, all around managers, but release engineering has been a space wherein it has been in favor of a selected few. Only selected few people have all that knowledge. So it's people who are doing release engineering. The knowledge is very centric to what they are doing. I mean, knowledge is very centric to a person. Inside a person. I mean, it's not generic to a tool. So, if a person decides to leave an organization or probably decides to, I mean, there is too much of a dependency on an individual when we talk about release engineering because, the person has to understand the complexity of the application and, the life cycle, how things interact with each other. So, we clearly need some tool in space wherein, the tool understands the flow, the tool understands the mechanisms, the intricacies, the complexity. So definitely. Also, now when we talk about major releases, a release manager typically is a person who's talking to 100 people. He's talking to test engineers, production engineers, he's talking to development engineers, and then there are a whole bunch of issues whether the certification has passed. We have tools in place. I don't say, I mean, even if we talk about Rational, we had certain tools with the name of Rational Team Consult, which for some extent might help in doing, release management. But typically, we do not have a, one kind of a tool which is typically built for release managers, or, I would call it as spreadsheet killers. So when we talk about release management, we also need that, the release managers has to orchestrate both the release automation, the release, as well as the management process. So there needs to be a mechanism, a tool, or a methodology which basically helps realize the same. So the basic purpose of this slide is to make you understand that we clearly need DevOps. And where are we going wrong? I mean, we clearly identified that there is a mismatch between the speeds of being development and of deployment, and being with the changing market trends. So let's go further and see what are the evolving customer and market expectations. As we already pointed, time to market is not it's earlier, or even today for some organization it's planned. But going forward, it would be opportunistic. I mean, we cannot wait on scheduled releases because the competition, everyone wants to be in a competitive space. So everyone is looking at having an edge. So if you want to have an edge, it's all about the time to market. Clearly makes a difference. Again, the delivery model was planned. I mean, earlier what used to happen is typically organization used to wait for 6 months, and in 6 months they basically used to, after 6 months they used to release one product, and after 6 months, only they would get to have a feedback. But now with the changing market needs, what is happening is incremental releases. What does that mean? You release something, you gauge customer feedback, you see that it's working fine, you release a improvised version of the same software. If you think that probably the things are not being accepted or being carried well, you go back to the development organization, you change things. So it's all incremental based on customer feedback is the main thing, and you actually have to take back customer feedback and incorporate the same and deliver whatever is being required. To have such an environment, there is a need for deployment automation, wherein at any phase in time you know what is working for you, you know what can be released. So the release part actually needs to be automated based on whatever changing customer expectations are. Again, one of the key things that needs to be highlighted is release frequency. I mean, earlier, as I said, it was between months to years, but nowadays, every now and then, go into Google App Store. You'll see every version of the software. It keeps upgrading every day. So it's like, we need to have something moving while we talk about deployment. So having said that, I think, we established that there is a need for DevOps, why DevOps is important, and we'll actually have to get ourselves ready to embrace that challenge. And, as I said, the first, while understanding the problem is one thing. Once you acknowledge that there is a problem is half solved. So it's very important to understand that, the problem exists. And if the problem exists, we will have to acknowledge and then, look forward to it. So recently, IBM has acquired UrbanCode. So UrbanCode basically is, UrbanCode is, was a company which had a set of tools with the name of uDeploy and uRelease, which I'll talk in detail in the slides to come. But they basically help realize the UrbanCode methodology, the DevOps methodology. So earlier also, IBM or some other tools in our with our competitors or some other tools with in the open source help realize DevOps. So in this presentation, my focus is not about IBM tools or what the main agenda of today's presentation is to help you realize the importance of DevOps and how IBM is tackling that challenge, right? So there are other products as well available, commercially available as well as available in the open source, which to some extent are doing the same job. They have their sweet spots, but no single tool can do all the things. So it's basically an amalgamation of, a expression of all the tools to come together and help you realize the DevOps methodology. So what is important is to understand, where are the gaps and how do we actually have to fill those gaps. So when we talk about changes, while we talk about changes, we have to understand when we talk about applications, when we talk about components, it's important to understand where are the changes. For example, I took an example of a banking application which has a front end, which has a web front end, or let's say a middle layer web application server, or probably a mainframe backend. So I don't expect mainframe to get changes so frequently. I mean, because that is pretty stable. So that is something we know now. We call it as system of records. System of records is something which we know would not go, which would not change that frequently. So and when we talk about web application, the front end, we know that it's basically on the customer needs, what the value that we want to provide. So these are the systems of change. So while we talk about, when we segregate these three different types of systems, that is, the system of change, the system of differentiation, and the system of record, it becomes important to understand, the slide that you see, the graph that you see on the right-hand side of the screen is the different layers and their change frequency. So the application configuration, is bound to change more frequently. And, likewise, the hardware or the OSs or other things are unlikely to change that frequently. So we already had certain tools from the IBM's kitty, which actually were able to deploy, and with UrbanCode coming in, where UrbanCode sits in, I would call UrbanCode would sit while we talk about system of change. Systems which are changing more frequently. So these are the places where UrbanCode fits in. Having said that, each of the automation tools available in the market has their own sweet spots. While for any tool to do good in the market, it has to do well in its sweet spot, and then it could be it's the job responsibility of the automation engineer to actually stretch along the boundaries. So nobody, I mean, probably if, while we talk about UrbanDeploy is typically, we say that it might be used for, it should be used for application configuration layer, but nobody stops it from, using it in, let's say, in the middleware layer. So that is true for each of the automation tools that we have available. So it's about doing well in your sweet spots, and then stretching to where you cannot, you're not made for. So that's where UrbanCode sits in. Coming to this slide, which talks about continuous delivery. So we know that continuous delivery is a process that integrates continuous integration with automated deployment, test, and release, creating a continuous delivery pipeline. So while we talk about UrbanCode, so UrbanCode has three basic components. While I talk components, these are three different products. The first product that you see on the screen is uRelease. uRelease is typically meant for release managers. It's a release management tool. uBuild is typically used for building your application. It's basically firing your application. People who are aware of, let's say, BuildForge. So you can say, it's a synonym to what BuildForge does from already available rational tools. Then we have uDeploy. So uDeploy is basically used for application release automation. So the point to take from this slide is one needs to clearly be able to differentiate between a release management and release automation. So release automation is the area of release engineers who basically build applications together using uBuild or any build tool, and then take those EXEs, take those components, and get them deployed into environment. And uRelease is basically release management, which is typically a job of release managers, which orchestrates the complete workflow, right from what the development engineer is doing to to the point till the product is out in the market, and then again receive the customer feedback from the market and provide it back to the development organization, covering the complete pipeline. So release management, we have uRelease, and release automation, we have uDeploy. So let's dig a little deep into release automation first, because that is something which probably most of that is the backbone of continuous delivery. And then of course uRelease is too needed, but release management is still being done. Somebody are doing it efficiently using even let's say Excel sheets. So we'll see how uRelease helps doing release management and what value it gets in. So let's talk about uDeploy. uDeploy is a deploy, as I already mentioned, it's basically used by release engineers. So it's a deployment automation tool. So basically, while we talk about components, while we talk about software, software is, as I've already mentioned, it's made up of different components. So keep aside, automation tool for a moment. So I would just, give an inference of how things are done manually. So, let's say somebody makes changes to the code. The first task is to, make sure that the changes are visible to the build tool. The build tool fires the build, and then probably there are some bunch of scripts that run, or somebody manually picks up those builds, recreate the environment, or put that particular deploy those builds, deploy those executables in those environments, or clean up the environment, and then start some smoke test on that before you can see that fine, things are okay for you in this particular environment. So now let's come back to an automation tool. What a good automation tool should be able to do. So the first thing is, when we talk about automation, it should be easy to use. Easy as in you should be able to define your process. As I say, we have different components together. You should know which are the components that needs to go in to the server first. I mean, let's talk about web application that needs to be deployed somewhere. So you probably would want to actually deploy one application first, and then at the parallel stages you would want to deploy a database changes and followed by some backend changes. So when I talk about blueprint, there should be a flow chart kind of a mechanism wherein considering a flow chart, the automation tool can specify, okay, what are the components that needs to go to which environment, what are the components that needs to be deployed, what are the components that needs to be rolled back, what are the kind of tests that needs to be done. So if it's available in a kind of a flow chart, that becomes easy to use, that becomes easy to understand. Second thing is per environment configuration management. Now, what does that mean? Per environment configuration management means is there could be different environments while the product goes from different phases in an application development lifecycle. There could be a development environment, there could be a test environment, there could be a certification environment, and there could be a production environment. So let's say I pick up my software. The developers will pick up their software. They would perform some changes, and they will create a process. They will say, okay, go deploy onto the environment that I want to deploy. They are satisfied with the results. Once they are satisfied with the result, they'll say, okay, fine, development environment is okay. Now, what the test environment can do is, the test environment should be in a position to use the same environment, as in the developer should promote that environment to the test. The test should use that environment. With a click of a button in the test environment, a similar deployment process should happen, and the tester should run their smoke test, they should run their automated test, they should run whatever they are okay with, and then they can promote the same to a certification environment. At the same time, developers who have already certified version 1 of the release, they can start working on a new change, a new RFP, a new feature enhancement, and then they can start creating new environments. So what is happening is, at each stage, at each change, we have different per configuration environment. So we know who is certifying what. And let's say version 1 of the software has released still in production environment. So we know that the changes that were made as part of release 1.0 has been certified, and all have certified in a similar environment. Because once we say the developers are happy with the changes on that environment, they will promote the same environment to the test. Once tests are satisfied with the changes and the environment, they will upgrade those and promote this environments up till they reach to the production stage. So at every point in time, we are making sure that the changes are going there. The testing is done. Whatever the exact criteria for each of these environments are there, they are in place. The developers, they have their own exact criteria based on whether they are running the unit test, or they are writing some XML test, or whatever test. So once they meet those exact criteria, only then they can promote the changes and the environment from one environment to the other. So that's what we mean by pre-environment configuration management. And it's good that if an automation tool can segregate between such kind of environments, so there is a clear transparency as to what are the changes and which is the environment that can be deployed. Again, compliance, while we are talking about tools, compliance, audit trail, and security is one important aspect. I mean, if I talk about typically big data analytics, or a type of talk about mobile applications or banking applications in particular, there is a clear compliance for every change that goes into. I mean, it's typically as in every change that you make to your software, before the software gets deployed, there has to be a complete audit trail mechanism as to who did what and what were the changes and who certified, what were the exact criteria. So while we are traversing from one environment to the other, the tool is automatically taking care of capturing those audit trails and signatories, and there are one can design their process in place as to what are the people responsible for certifying various things. We have an easy-to-use process designer. I will show you in a couple of slides to come what is the process designer and how basically you can design your deployment process. And inventory is a concept wherein you have an inventory wherein you can pick up your source code, and the same source code gets deployed, gets built, and the same build then finally gets deployed. I'll move on to the next slide. So you can consider, when I talk about uDeploy is typically used, as I said, it's used for deployment automation, right? So the first thing that would come to somebody's mind is I have to design my deployment process. So uDeploy has an integration with a whole bunch of different application products, different middle layer products, and these steps are available as drag and drop. So if you see in this particular snapshot, you have different availables. For example, deploying an application to IBM's Worklight. So you have you can start up with deploying an adapter, deploying a hybrid application to the adapter, and uploading the application to the application center. So what happens is these things are easily drag and drop. You can drag and drop things onto your process designer, and you can define that go deploy this particular software onto this environment. Let me come to the next slide. This slide, if you see, this is a flow chart. So the first we'll try to understand the flow chart. So these all things are drag and drop from the last snapshot that we saw, which were dragging those plugins. So the first thing that when we start, we say get the deployable artifacts from the code station. So the first thing that, according to this flow chart, the uDeploy tool will do is go to its code station, and it will pick up the latest changes that have been made. Now, once that is done, it's running two processes in parallel on two different machines. One is it's deploying hybrid application to the server console, and the second, on the second alternate parallel process, you would see that it's deploying adapters to the server console. And there, on parallelly, if you see that it's deploying the adapter, and it's deploying the legacy adapter, and it's deploying one adapter, and it's uploading the application to the application center once that is done. So this is once you have a process designed that these are the things that I would want to do. I would want to download my artifacts. I would want to download my exe. I would want to run this. So once you drag and drop these, if you double click on each of these action items, the picture that you see on your left hand side, right? That is when I say deploy the JKE web application, version 1 of the JKE mobile application on my machine, on my host machine. So what it will do is you will have to specify the name of the application. You will have to specify the path of the server where this web application needs to be deployed. What all are the application file names, and working directory. You can set up your preconditions, whether it needs to be any prerequisite that needs to be done. So what has happened is, once we fire with the push button that okay, fine, deploy my software, it will basically do all these functions, which it will read all these things from this process designer. That is, read this application, pick up this application from this place, put this application in this server path. Typically, for other processes also, other processes that we have designed in the process designer, it basically would actually pick up those artifacts, and based on whatever actions one has chosen from the plugin, whether it's a download action or an upload action or a deployment action, it would perform those necessary steps. So, this is again the slide that I am right now on. This is again an example of an upload of an application step. So once you have designed that particular process in place, you double click that, and then you specify that once you deploy, once you run all these things, whatever processes, what is the final step that needs to be done. So you again specify the name of your step. You specify the server path from where things have to be picked up. You specify the file name, and probably the environment on which this has to be used that needs a username and a password. So all these things are provided. Having said that, there could be some spaces that you would want to specify some external preconditions, or some external batch files that need to be run. So even those things can be configured using from within the tool. So this is kind of a one-time job. So once you establish that particular connectivity, I mean, it becomes very easy for, let's say, a person in a development or a person in a test, because they do not actually have to come and create all these processes. All their job would be, once these processes are in place, they are in place. The job of a development engineer or a test engineer is just to hit on a button and say, run those things. So what will happen is, all these steps would actually run in parallel and get deployed in whatever environment that you have told it to, and one can perform the necessary validation and promote that environment upfront. So that's the basic crux. So the snapshot that you see right now in front of you is a snapshot of what a typically developer would see. So if you see, there is something known as request process. So and we are talking about development environment. So request processes, one can actually create a new process or use the process that is already being established, let's say by a release engineer or somebody. And on clicking off a deploy button, once the flow is done, clicking on a deploy button, the next slide would show that all these processes actually get run parallelly, whatever is the duration, and you get a real-time status of what is happening with what step. I mean, if you see in this snapshot, there are 3 things that are being done. Download the artifacts, deploying the JKE adapter, deploy the web application, and we are also deploying the legacy adapter, and finally uploading of the application. So each of these steps, as they are performed by the application, you get a real-time status of what is happening where. So I think still you will not be able to see the next slide that I am on, because I see 97%. I'll wait for a minute. So the idea that we are trying to take is this particular uDeploy, that is deployment automation tool, eases out the job of adapting to the changes, and promoting those changes from one environment to the other. And there are different processes in place and different things in place which at the advent of this tool, which one can use to their ease. I still see it as 97%, so I'm not sure if I'm going ahead. Okay, so now it's 100%, so I'm sure that you would be able to see the screen that I am on. So this was the slide that I was talking about. So what is happening is, once we actually say that go deploy me the software, the tool typically takes care of running through those processes and deploying it on the necessary environments that are already pre-configured. Again, coming to the next slide, which talks about uDeploy works in a heterogeneous environment. So I would say that that is one of the sweet spots of uDeploy. uDeploy works in, it has integration with, if I know correctly, it has plugins for 100 different kind of an application. So what does that mean is, these applications, you already have plugins available. You just simply has to drag and drop those plugins. So the tool understands what are the processes that needs to be done to deploy software on these applications. And also on a click of button, it probably, if it's a web application server, it knows that what are the details, what are the preconditions that one needs to set up. So it has all those kind of plugins available, all those kinds of templates available. So some of it can it has integration with different deployment sources, as in build server, source control tools. It also has type integrations with ClearCase, Synergy, MQ, and whole bunch of web servers, as in Tomcat, JBoss, WebLogic. It also has integration with quality and change management system, as in Quality Center, and right now it also has integration with Rational Team Concert and the Jazz Hub. So that's one of the sweet spots of uDeploy, wherein it's able to communicate and adapt to the changes and able to deploy software on various servers and for various types of applications. That's all about uDeploy. Let me touch upon uRelease before I open up to questions. So whatever we have discussed thus far is about deployment automation, right? So deployment automation is, as I already mentioned a number of times, that it should be on a click of a button, a magic happens, something gets deployed, and people can do and perform their jobs. As in, they can test the software, they can validate the software, and certify what's happening. So in the back end, the most important thing is, somebody actually has to orchestrate the complete process of developers, engineers, what is happening in the release engineering space, incorporate customer feedback. So basically, when we talk about uRelease is a release planning and orchestration tool. So what typically uRelease, you can identify that this uRelease product, it has different templates available, and these templates, with different templates, you can actually first design your releases. It also has a tight integration with uDeploy. So every time from uDeploy environment is being promoted from, let's say, from one environment to the other environment, uRelease comes to know that, okay, typically somebody sitting as a release manager has a clear dashboard which says him, what are the processes that are in place, what are the things, my software, which version of software right now is release ready. If we are stuck, what are the bottlenecks? And also, when we talk about releases, there are different phases in a release. I mean, it typically begins with the development phase and ends, let's say, with the operations phase or a deployment phase. Between all these, between these two things, there are a whole lot of phases that happen. And and as you move from one phase to the other phase, as you promote an environment, there are some exit criteria, and you actually have to have audit trail on those exit criteria. Let's say you move from from development phase to the testing phase. If the things were taken care of, who did what, that kind of a bird's eye. And if somebody has to watch or keep what is the health of my product, then uRelease is a product wherein somebody can come and see what is happening and how things are happening. Also, while we talk about uRelease, we say that it's basically a spreadsheet killer. So that's how it basically orchestrates the complete release and automation process. So while we talk about automation and release management, let's see at this chart, the chart that I am on, as to what, which tool does what. I'll wait for a minute for the slide to come up. Yeah. So while we talk about automation and management, we know that uDeploy automates deployments. uDeploy also has a visual process designer. The process designer is nothing but a flowchart kind of a thing that we see in the slides before, which basically helps you define the process of deployment. Then we have pluggable actions, plug-in actions for application containers, web servers. This is something when we talk about the sweet spot of uDeploy. The kind of integrations it has with different softwares, and the kind of the kind of environment it can work in. I mean, it can work in pretty large amount of heterogeneous environment, and it can basically, using the process designer and different flowcharts, it can basically model environments and deployment targets. And so this is at the ease of the users who are using this to basically use them. Then we talk about release management. It basically enforce quality gates for environments. So these quality gates are nothing but exit criteria when we flow from one phase to the other phase. So both these exit criteria are available in both uDeploy and uRelease, but in uDeploy, the exit criteria would be different. They would be different criteria when we basically talk about deployment upgradation or deployment promotion from a development phase to a testing phase. But when we talk about release management, when we talk about exit criteria, it's basically a superset of deployment or non. So There could be a whole bunch of other exit criteria, whether it has passed through a certification phase or whether it, certain security things have been taken care of. So all these things, all these processes can actually be covered using uRelease. Again, management of infrastructure in addition to the application changes can be done. So when we talk about releases, one of the important things that we need to understand is that it's not about softwares, right? So at the end of the day, these softwares actually need to have certain hardware, certain resources where they can get actually deployed to. And there's always a gap wherein the hardware is not ready, the OS are not available, or the machines, machine configuration is not available to what somebody has, or what are the machines available, what are the teams who would be working, because for each release there would be a different team as in, probably one team would be looking at, let's say, release 1.0 and the other team might be looking at 1.2. So, based on the tool the uRelease should provide a view wherein, you can identify looking at the tool that, what are the hardware resources available. So that kind of a view the tool should be able to provide, and who is working on what, as in which resources, which engineers are actually being engaged for release 1.0 and who all are working for release 1.2, and, how the gates are being met from one release to the other. And as I said, it's when we talk about uRelease, it's basically real-time status for long production releases. So every day, every morning, somebody can come and see whether I am on schedule, my release is on schedule. If it's not on schedule, if I'm lagging, what is the time that I'm lagging? I mean, if I'm lagging by days, if I'm lagging by weeks, and there are different flags that get set, and necessary actions, necessary notifications based on the criteria that one has set up would be sent if there are, if the tool sees that something is going bad. So bringing both these together, that is deployment automation and deployment management or release management, basically typically eases out the process of software deployment, and helps realize DevOps methodology. And based on whatever we are gauging from market trends, this is the clear-cut need of the hour, and we are just embracing the challenges that have been thrown up by the changing customer expectations. So to conclude, I would conclude my slide with how we should understand the challenge that we have for a continuous delivery pipeline, because we need to ensure that our applications are production ready throughout the life cycle and can be released anytime. And when we talk about risk mitigation, we talk about risk. The application should also be able to minimize rollback due to quality issues. So when we talk about, let's say, uDeploy, that, okay, fine, if something has bad has gone with version 1.2, at the back end you already have version 1.1 that has already been certified. So the rollback process, the risk mitigation, they are automatically being taken care of through once you have continuous delivery pipeline in place. Also, this gives flexibility to all stakeholders, who are involved in application software development, right from developers to the people who are doing operations, to actually validate on a customer-like environment. And this is nothing but standardization of a process assets between dev and ops. So definitely we now realize that until unless we have that, we will not be able to bring customer feedback soon and get the same back into development. So the last slide that I'm on is, it typically talks about some of the investments that some of our partners have done. Some of our customers have done in continuous delivery and DevOps, and they are also users of UrbanCode, and all this is publicly available, and we are happy to share the success stories of some of them. And customers have clearly observed, have bigger ROI, and they have clearly understood, have reaped benefits of investing in something like DevOps and using appropriate tools to realize what all we have. So that's all I have for today as far as the presentation of DevOps and a sneak peek into uDeploy and uRelease was concerned. I'm happy to take any questions, if any, and I would also urge you to come visit IBM's website and look at these tools. You can, my email ID is available. You can send me an email if you want any resources, if you want any readable resources. I'll be happy to help you. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amit, for the presentation. You could start taking the questions. I think I have given you 1 or 2 questions as of now. I'm waiting for more questions. I'll start assigning them as soon as I start getting from the attendees.
So I am on this questions thing.
Yes, Amit. Do you see the questions? Do you see the questions box?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Request you to undock the pane.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. You will be able to see the questions there.
No, I don't have any. So show me an empty box there right now.
Is that the questions box that you're looking at?
Yes. So it says show answered questions. Once I undock that, it says show answered questions, and I see a cross mark question and answer.
Okay, so can you resize the box? I have assigned you 2 questions as of now. If you drag the box from the corner, from the bottom corner, just try and drag the box and resize it. And let me know if you can now see the questions.
I did.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Yes.
No problem. Both the questions are from Shivaraj.
So the question that Shivraj has asked, hi Shivraj, so the question that I have is, how is IBM uDeploy different from tools on part of IBM, different from Team Foundation Server? Would like to, okay, so he would want to, he's also send me his email ID to send me an answer on that, but let me, just give you a little brief. So Team Foundation Server is typically a Microsoft utility. Microsoft's so it also has certain capabilities. But I can write to you something. But if you are already a Team Foundation Server and you do some kind of a deployment using Team Foundation Server, and I can answer you, but right now we haven't done competitive analysis of what Team Foundation Server does, right? And honestly, ethically, we are not even allowed to do that kind of a competitive analysis. So I can talk about, if you have certain problems, if you're already, using deployment automation, and if you have certain questions as to what you are trying to achieve, what you are doing, I can help you answer those queries as to, how uDeploy, IBM's uDeploy fits in. So I have your email ID. I'll write you an email so we can discuss further on this offline. Yeah. So I'll take the other question. Will you be able to compare our codes to any of the equivalent softwares in the market, just to get how this could be relevant? So again, the other question is also about a comparative analysis of UrbanCode with any of the tools as in BMP. There are certain tools that HP does, that are available in the market. In fact, IBM also had a tool with the name of Rational Asset Framework, RAF, which did the same job. So I would actually send you a sales, because they have done certain evaluation as to how, what are the comparative analysis between the two. Right now, I do not have that particular material artifacts available, but if you can send me an email, I can send you the same. The third question that I would want to take is, does UI build supports CI, continuous integration? Yes. So uBuild definitely supports continuous integration. So uBuild is also, I mean, it's synonym to Puppet or let's say build coach. So right now, if somebody has already invested, let's say, on a tool, something known as build coach or let's say Puppet, they can continue to use that because these tools can also be used for continuous integration. But as if somebody is new or somebody is trying to invest, then we recommend that even uBuild can be used to address continuous integration, continuous delivery pipeline. So it's these tools basically. These tools also talk to open source. These tools also, so it's not that you'll actually have to pick uDeploy and you also have to pick uRelease, and if you pick these tools, then the only choice that you have to have is you need to have uBuild. uBuild also does the same job. So if you have already invested on, let's say, some tool, you can, for deployment automation, you can use let's say uDeploy, and at the same time have your build integration tool. So it's the option that the users have. So to answer your question, uBuild does support continuous integration. So I have a question which says that does it have interface to EC? So I'm not very sure if I understand what EC stands for. I'm not sure what EC stands for. So maybe if you can specify that or send me an email to my email ID.
That's all the questions we have so far. We still have a couple of minutes left, so if anyone else has any question regarding today's session, request you to send in the questions. And in case if you cannot send in the questions now, you can take it offline. You can email us your question and we can share the same with the speaker. Let me see, we are getting... Okay, so Prakash Rangaraju says EC stands for Electric Cloud. Would you want to take the question now, Amit?
Does it have interface? So I do not have a clear answer to this electric cloud. I don't understand. I'll actually have to get a little more understanding about this electric cloud. So if you please provide me the email IDs of these people, and I can probably through you or directly I can reply back to them.
Okay, there is one more question from Ravindran. I have just assigned you.
Yes. So the question is very relevant. It says how in mobile application environment this will be useful. So this is very useful for a mobile application environment. In fact, from IBM we also have a mobile application development tool with the name of WorkLight, right? So you typically develop your applications on a WorkLight, and then you would want to host them onto a console, you host those onto a Dapper, and finally host that to an application center, right? So we have plugins available for uDeploy, wherein there is an integration with mobile application development, and there is a strategic focus from IBM for typically when we talk about continuous delivery for mobile application environment. So we have a whole bunch of plugins, and there is a separate team which typically provides solution to talk about, to evangelize, and to address the spaces, the gaps that we have for application, mobile application environment. Because typically for desktop application, continuous delivery is important, but people are still living with that, right? But for mobile application environment, what we have realized speaking to our customers, that it has become, even more one thing. I mean, that is the space wherein we actually have to make it moving more forward. So definitely we have plugins in place, and we have clear strategic goals in place as to how we are tackling that problem. So how safe is to use Jenkins? Yeah, fine. So Jenkins, there is, if we talk about uDeploy, Jenkins is again a build automation tool, right? And it fires build. So again, there are publicly available YouTube videos which talks about uDeploy. And I also ended up seeing one of the videos on uDeploy in Jenkins, wherein the build gets created in Jenkins, and how uDeploy reads those components from Jenkins and actually get them deployed. So definitely Jenkins is very useful. I mean, we already have, when we talk about uDeploy, there is already integration present with Jenkins, and it's all safe to use, and we have customers who are already using the same.
That will be all with the questions, Amit. Thank you so much for taking the questions, and once again request all the attendees, if you have more questions, please feel free to send in your queries to us, or you can directly email Amit regarding today's session's questions. The recording of today's session will be available on techgig.com by tomorrow afternoon. So those who came in late, joined late, they can all go and check the video on techgig.com tomorrow afternoon. So with that note, I would conclude today's session. And once again, thank you so much, Amit, for taking time out of your busy schedule and giving this insightful presentation. And thank you so much, all the attendees, for your fair participation and support for today's session. Thanks, Amit.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.